81 years ago this morning, the Japanese attacked the American fleet at Pearl Harbor. And we lost a lot of men that day, and we lost a lot of ships that day. And the question was, could America rally? And luckily, we had carriers that were not there, because they would have blown out the carriers and it would have been much more difficult to recover. But we did. In many ways, at least half the country was a different country back then. You and I, we understand. We connect with that generation and the generation before. We honor them. We appreciate what they've done, their patriotism, their love of country, their love of our institutions and our history and our flag. And yet there are those today who condemn it all. And most of those who condemn it all have never contributed to this country. If you think about it, they've never tried to even improve their own communities or neighborhoods. Not all, but many are very young people who've never served, even as volunteers in their communities. They've never served as volunteer firefighters or actual firefighters or police officers. They've never volunteered in their schools. And I can go on and on and on. They just expect things to be as they demand. It's a very bad psychosis, and yet that's one that we're suffering from in this country. That's the nature of education today. That's the nature of the culture. That's the nature of Marxism. Everybody's a victim and everybody has a chip on their shoulder. Who are they? They don't need to contribute anything. And so they will destroy the country and rearrange the country and socially engineer the people from an ideological perspective. And they think they're born in God's gift and should be recipients of largesse from the state, which is we the people. And we have politicians in this country that promote this ideology. So we really have different people. You know, they say we're a divided country, red and blue. We're divided more than that. Culturally, we're divided in many ways. And really, the politicians hate us, including Republican politicians like Mitch McConnell. They vote on a law they call the something like the Respect for Marriage Act or something, which is a war on faith and religion. Because there's a huge loophole in there that Mike Lee tried to change and close, and they wouldn't allow it. They are burdening us and our children and our grandchildren and generations yet born with massive debt. And to what end? This redistribution experiment doesn't work, while at the same time failing to do what they're supposed to do: secure the border, strengthen the military, protect us from enemies, foreign and domestic. It's a huge problem. There was an election the other day of Raphael Warnock. Raphael Warnock is associated very closely with Louis Farrakhan and Leonard Jeffries, two insane racists and anti-Semites. The media, you know, they report on his election as some great victory over Herschel Walker, who is a patriot, who is a born-again Christian, as they use stereotypes to attack him as not very bright and so forth. And we have a Senate and a House that is growing in numbers with individuals like this who truly hate America. And the Democrat Party is the lapdog to all of them. But I want us to remember December 7, 1941, as FDR said, a day that will live in infamy. And here are some of the survivors. American Veterans Center, December 7th. Go.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
By December 1941, the world was at war. Europe was reeling from the Nazis' blitz. In the West, a determined Britain stood alone. Meanwhile, Imperial Japanese armies marched through China. Great nations and civilized peoples were enveloped by a new, terrible sort of war.
Everybody knew it was coming, just didn't know when.
May or June, probably, of 1941, we went on a full alert because everybody was saying we were going to go to war with Japan.
And we said, if we ever get in a war in Japan, we'll wipe them out in 3 months. We were very arrogant and proud about that. But how mistaken they were.
Aboard the USS Nevada, the band played Morning Colors as the Stars and Stripes was raised, and a giant wave of planes appeared off in the distance. It was 7:48 a.m.
And it's on a Sunday. They couldn't have picked a better day to do it because we get paid twice a month, and the day before was our payday. So everybody's getting ready to go and spend their $12 or $15 that they got.
Moments later, chaos ensued, and the world would be forever changed. Japanese dive bombers and fighters rained fire upon American fighters, easy targets parked wingtip to wingtip on the ground.
We heard a screaming aircraft, and moments later, a terrible explosion. We ran outside the hangar, and the hangar beside us had received the first bomb that fell on Fort Island.
The first Japanese plane I saw was flying low and slow in my direction. He cut loose his machine guns. So the bullets went over my head and dug a trench in the dirt behind me.
But the real target was the pride of the U.S. Navy, the battleships moored just off Fort Island. All along Battleship Row, sleeping sailors awoke to the explosion of bombs and the sounds of alarms calling them to battle stations.
All the loudspeakers, all the radios, everything had the fact that this is not a drill, this is a real thing.
First hit, I thought somebody ran into us. But there was a lot of, it wasn't that kind of a hit. It wasn't a collision hit. It was a sharp, and you turn your head, and then just about 30 seconds, the next one hit. Then I know.
Immediately, the USS Oklahoma was hit by 3 torpedoes and began to capsize. The California was hit by 2 bombs and torpedoes. At 8:06 a.m., a bomb crashed through the forward deck of the USS Arizona.
Went through 5 decks and into the lower handling room, and when it went in the lower handling room, there went 1 million pounds of powder. It blew up, and that's in the pictures you all see of it, and the bow came about 30, 40 feet out of the water.
Nearly 1,200 men aboard the Arizona would be killed in the blast.
So we loaded the guys in the launches and to take them to the hospital ship, and we abandoned ship.
2 waves of attacks over 90 minutes had left Pearl Harbor smoldering.
I seen all the ships up, Battleship Row on fire, the Arizona, the West Virginia, the Tennessee, Nevada. It was a devastating sight I'll never forget.
The attack on Pearl Harbor plunged the United States into World War II. Its inspired defense rallied the nation to fight on.
With confidence in our armed forces,
What happened December 7th is frozen in my mind.
with the unbounding determination of our people,
I'm very happy that I'm still here to talk about it, but I'm glad that I played a small part.
The sailors, they didn't have to be told what to do.
we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God.
Not too long after the attack on Pearl Harbor, my father, a few months later, would join the Army. He was 17 years old. Unbeknownst to him, my mother's father, my grandfather, he would join the Marines. My mother's uncle, he would join the Marines. In fact, he joined with my grandfather. They were brother-in-laws. And my grandfather would do very horrific fighting in Guam and Iwo Jima. My great-uncle would do horrific fighting in Guadalcanal, the Solomon Islands, which now the Communist Chinese have an agreement with respect to their ships, if you can believe that. My father was never sent overseas, and I think I've said this once before, because when he sent it to me, it really touched my heart. My father said to me, and Ryan, you may not know this, or you might. Ryan, my dear friend, was my father's friend too, he said, "Now I know why I wasn't sent to war." And I said, "Why, Dad?" And he said, "So I would have you." So you can imagine as a son, that would really touch you.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.